I want to play this clip from Nigel Farage, who viewers might remember the Chagos Islands, where the Labour government basically said that they would sign them over and we'd get absolutely naff all for it, but we would pay them for the pleasure. You couldn't make it up. And we'd pay for the migrants that end up arriving on the Chagos Islands to be deported all the way to, what was it, St. Helena, and which is, by the way, where Napoleon spent his last years.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Yes, there's a history lesson for you. And the new administration are apparently of the view that this was a very stupid thing to do. I mean, yes, because it's strategic, gives you, you lose a strategic advantage as a consequence of giving over these islands for absolutely nothing, with Mauritius being a close ally of the Chinese Communist Party. So anyway, Nigel Farage stood up. Obviously, last week he was at Mar-a-Lago celebrating with President Trump, and he's had conversations with those in the Trump administration or who are rumoured to be joining the Trump administration. And he had this to say in the House of Commons today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mauritius has no legal or historical claim to the sovereignty of a group of islands that are 1,300 miles away from where it is, nor does, from the International Court, it was purely an advisory opinion. There is no legal reason why we have to do any of this. Now, I warned the Foreign Secretary 6 weeks ago in this chamber that it was an enormous mistake to do this, given that we had a US presidential election coming up on November the 5th. And if you say to me, well, yes, it's okay, the United States are fully in favour, really? I can tell you that the incoming National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz, has form on this, right back to when the Right Honourable Member for Braintree was doing his best to give away the sovereignty of the Chagos Islands. Indeed, he wrote to Secretary of State Blinken at the time. There is, I can assure you, having been in America last week, knowing also the incoming Defence Secretary very well, there is outright hostility to this deal. Whatever is said about a lease agreement, as we saw with Hong Kong, these agreements can very, very easily be broken. Diego Garcia was described to me by a senior Trump advisor as the most important island on the planet as far as America was concerned. So you're going to find outright hostility. And by the way, when it comes to the Chagosian people, yes, of course, what happened to them was truly awful. They do not wish to live. They're unanimous in this. They do not wish to live under Mauritian rule. They want to live under British rule because they actually trust us. There is no basis for this agreement to continue as it is, and if you do, you'll be at conflict with a country without which we would be defenceless.
Very well said, I thought, and actually a blessing in disguise that James Cleverly wasn't elected as the leader of the Conservative and Unionist Party. I think Nigel was right to also reprimand him. So the fact of the matter is that on everything that the Labour Party are doing right now, the national interest seems to finish last. Actually, it's the interest. Look no further than the COP29 conference, the United Nations conference yesterday. Sir Keir Starmer basically there on his own. No other world leader of a developed economy such as ours was at this conference, yet he's just signed us up to even more restrictive climate targets, signed us up to billions more quid in spending on net zero, and the Chagos Islands. It's all adding up to a narrative which suggests that Sir Keir Starmer couldn't give a flying flamingo about the national interest. Who wants to go first on that?
Yeah, I'll take a pop at it. I think the reality is setting in on this Labour government that they have been, after 14 years in opposition, completely unprepared and probably surprised that they're actually governing. Mistake number one, putting David Lammy in any position of authority is just absolutely insane. That is literally like putting Diane Abbott in charge of a Tesco's checkout. I mean, she can't even count her change. It's ridiculous. It really is that ridiculous. but I think, Nigel, I mean, it was, first of all, really entertaining to see Jeremy Corbyn sat there looking at Nigel Farage. I bet he never expected to see that in his political career.
No,
But
and he's been in there a long time.
He has, yeah. So I think Nigel's absolutely right. It's what we've been saying all along. We've been saying that why the hell are we giving up these islands? I personally think the Democrats would be all for this, though. Seeing what an absolute show they were in the lead up to the election, and how far left they've gone, I suspect they are all pro giving up territory and for whatever reason. But we all know that the Republicans were going to win. I don't think they factored that in there. Keir Starmer made that huge mistake of allowing his staffers to go over there, thinking, probably taking advice from Rory Stewart and Alistair Campbell, that they were going to win by a landslide. So I think this is going to backfire massively. And if it ends up that Trump's administration, say absolutely this is not happening, it's going to be absolute egg on Keir Starmer's face, and I would love for that to happen.
Yes.
I mean, I really hope that Elon and Trump together just completely take the piss out of David Lammy and Keir Starmer over the next few years. I mean, it would be really interesting to see if they're able to put enough pressure on Keir Starmer to get rid of David Lammy. I mean, we've had a close ally of Trump posting on Twitter, I think it was yesterday or the day before, saying, he's looking forward to David Lammy's apology, before the relationship with Britain is able to foster again. It's going to be an interesting few years, and we'll see how long David Lammy lasts.
Well, hopefully not very. I mean, I can't stand the man. To be honest, I can't stand any of them, though, so I don't discriminate. Yes. Well, actually, do you know what? I did congratulate Wes Streeting today, because I think he's the only one in that cabinet that is willing to actually scrutinise what assisted dying will actually mean in practice, because he's looked at the state of palliative care within the NHS, end-of-life care, and actually it doesn't really exist in the NHS anymore. People are left to die of dehydration and all the rest of it. It's pretty sinister. So he's actually scrutinising it, and I do like that. My friends, if you're still watching, thank you very much. And I've got a request for you. Thanks to viewers like you, Recent UK, we're on a roll. We're standing up to the woke brigade and championing British pride, especially for the next generation. We're one of the only voices out there that are actually targeting young Brits, seeking to wake them up from this lefty fog and reminding them of what it means to be British. And here's the deal. I want us to go further than that. I want to see Reasoned take on the mainstream left-wing media, a dominant culture here in Britain. We're aiming to expand with more presenters, with hard-hitting documentaries, with live events, with crash courses, the lot. But for that, we need you. We're picking one day to fundraise for this next level project, and that's where you at home come in. We're asking if you'd sign up to share our fundraiser link with your friends and networks on the big day itself. It's a small ask with the potential for a massive impact. Plus, the top fundraisers, you'll bag yourself exclusive goodies and a chance to meet some very special guests, VIPs. More importantly, you'll be standing with us, rallying young Brits to the values that make this country great, as much as the left try and destroy it. So if you're in, click the Google form in the description below, drop in your details, and I'll be in touch. Cheers very much. Let's make it happen together.